For the second time now, I believe that President Donald Trump is deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. He deserved it during his first term when he negotiated the Abraham Accords, and he deserves it today. If he can get both Israel and Hamas to end this war in the Middle East, he will have done more to support global stability than any president in my lifetime. Now, regardless of whether he deserves the award, he almost certainly will never win the award. It's much too political, and the people who get to vote dislike him. This could be a good thing, though. See, I have a theory that Donald Trump winning the Nobel Peace Prize could cause a tremendous amount of violence. The very idea itself is liable to explode the heads of countless leftists. And while that would be good for a laugh, the fallout would be tremendous. I mean, where would we find our baristas? I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. I have three topics that I'm going to be discussing today. We're going to talk about the Israel and Hamas potential peace treaty happening right now at this moment. We are going to talk about Jay Jones, the bloodthirsty Democrat from Virginia, and I'm going to dissect a new movie that's out this week called One Battle After Another. Let's get into right off the bat. We're going to get straight into topic one. Topic one, Donald Trump, the peacemaker. So yesterday, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved a deal. So we talked about this briefly, I believe, either on the last episode or 2 episodes ago. Donald Trump put out this 21-point plan for peace between Israel and Hamas. And we went through a couple of the bullet points, but we didn't really get too in-depth. I'm not going to do that again today because it doesn't matter until it does. But basically, Donald Trump came out with a 21-point plan for the future of Gaza and Israel and trying to get peace between Israel and Hamas. You know, I have a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts on this particular topic. I am one of those guys. You can call me a hawk. You can call me an interventionist, whatever you want to say. I am one of those guys that just thinks that Israel needs to just go in there and kill every person who's in that organization. There's no way around it. There's no peace with Hamas. There's no such thing as peace with Hamas. But there's a plan on the table, potentially accepted. Israel accepted it. Now it kind of triggers a couple things that could happen. We'll see. Basically, Hamas has, at this point, I think it's 48 hours, but they had 72 hours to release the rest of the hostages that they've been holding for 2 years at this point. And it's important that we understand that these people have been living in captivity for 700 and something days, and it's crazy to me that they're still negotiating for their release. There's 20 living hostages still being held 2 years later, as well as 28 bodies of deceased hostages. So Hamas has another 2 days, I think until Monday, I guess, is really what it comes down to, Monday or Sunday. I'm not 100% sure when this expires, but they had 3 days to release the 48 hostages, and then it triggers phase 2 of this plan. This is phase 1. Israel accepts, Hamas has to release the hostages, then Israel is going to withdraw, where they're going to a certain point where I guess they'll still control about half of Gaza, a little over half of Gaza, but they're going to withdraw to the halfway point, and it goes from there. So there's a couple phases. Obviously, it doesn't all happen at once. There's not just this big thing, but basically there's a ceasefire. Israel is going to withdraw, provided that Hamas releases the rest of the hostages. Now, is Hamas going to do it? I don't know. Maybe. And we'll see. I don't know. They haven't really shown any interest in making peace, which is ridiculous because they are losing this war badly. It's not close. It's not a close contest, not we gave it a good effort. No, they're getting destroyed. And Israel is the bad guy in the world eye, but they're always going to be the bad guy in the world eye. That's just the way it is. But Israel's winning. So Hamas, in their best interest, maybe accepts the deal. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I don't know if they're going to release the hostages. I feel like they think the hostages are the only thing keeping them alive, and I think that they're kind of correct about that. So I'm not 100% sure if they're willing to give them up. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I can't make a prediction because I can't put my as empathetic as I am, that idea of walking in other people's shoes, I have a hard time considering the point of view from some 6th century barbarian, jihadi, low IQ, probably inbred terrible terrorist. I have a hard time putting myself in that point of view to really consider things from his worldview. So I don't know. I don't know if Hamas is going to accept it. I do not know whether or not Israel is going to follow through. We'll see. I don't know. And you don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We got another couple of days. But this is a big deal because let's just play a game and pretend for a second that we know Hamas is going to accept. They're going to release the hostages. If this happens, if there is war brokered between these two countries, or at least not if there's war brokered, if there's peace brokered between these two countries, if they manage to put this war behind them, not that there's ever going to really be peace, but if they can at least say what they've always said, which is that, all right, we're going to delay it a little bit longer. We're going to not shoot at each other for just a little bit. That itself is deserving of a Nobel Peace Prize, in my opinion. Because who else is doing more for peace than negotiating the peace between two of the most high-profile, or at least one of the two most high-profile conflicts in the entire world? Now, the other one of, obviously, Ukraine, Russia. There's a lot of bad things happening in the world, but these are the two major ones that we're talking about here in the States and in Europe, and they're the ones that really have captivated the world. So negotiating a peace or a ceasefire for one of those two things absolutely is deserving of a Nobel Peace Prize. I understand there's good people doing good work, but that's a huge accomplishment. We will see. Here's the part about this that I just, I just said I have a hard time empathizing with the 6th century inbred barbarians that are Hamas. I also have a hard time understanding Israel's thought process when it comes to their side of this peace agreement. So they've agreed to release 1,700 Gazans that were arrested following the 2023 attacks. That is, and also 250 other Palestinians that are serving life sentences in jail. This is crazy to me. This is absolutely nuts to me. I think this is a terrible precedent. It already has been set, which is why I understand it's not necessarily setting the precedent. The precedent has been set. Israel is the kind of country that says anything to get back a hostage. You release one hostage, we'll give you 1,000 terrorists. No, what? No, that's a terrible thing. You know who I like in regards to thinking about how we approach terrorists? I like Ronald Reagan. You know what he said? We don't negotiate with terrorists, okay? And that's what I think. Israel should not be giving up people who are criminals for civilian hostages, because the people who Israel have arrested, these 1,700 Gazans and especially the 250 Palestinians serving life sentences, they're not just people that were snatched up off the street. Israel didn't run in there, grab them, take them back, and say they're ours forever. No, these are people who committed crimes. In almost every case, they are terrorists who have either killed Jews, threatened to kill Jews, tried to kill Jews, plotted to kill Jews. They're people who have done bad things. You don't have 250 people serving a life sentence for jaywalking. You know what I mean? These are not guys who are innocent. And they're used as pawns by Hamas to say, all right, well, give us back our terrorist cohorts, and we'll give you back the guy who's the DJ in Tel Aviv. And it's not a fair trade, not at all. And I don't know why Israel does this. I get it. You want to get back the hostages. I want the hostages to come home safe. I understand this. But these guys are going to kill more Jewish people. That's what they're going to do. They didn't turn their lives around in an Israeli jail. They are still terrorists. They're still guys who are hell-bent on killing Jews, and they're going to go back to Palestine, re-equip, and they're going to kill Jews. So I don't like this part of the deal. I don't like this part of the peace negotiation process. I don't understand why Israel goes along with it. I, too, want the 20 remaining living hostages to come home safely, but giving them, I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't have it written down here. One of the guys is literally going to be the new head of Hamas when he gets out. He's going to take over the entire organization if it still exists, which it will if this deal goes through. So you're giving them back new leadership after you've just completely destroyed most of the Iranian proxies around, most of the Qatari proxies, most of these guys who are doing bad things, these terrorist organizations. Israel has done a great job of just dismantling them. And now you're giving back somebody who is capable of plotting the next October 7th. I don't understand the thought process, but we'll see. Like I said, I don't know if this is even going to happen, because you don't know if this is going to happen, because we don't know what Hamas is going to do, if they're going to release all the hostages or not. So we'll see. Like I said, I think this is a good thing. I think it would be good to stop the fighting. I think Israel did what they needed to do. I think they should have gone further. I think they should have done this quicker. I think that they are too worried about what the world thinks about them, and they should have just gone in there and killed the people who needed killing. And listen, I understand that there have been civilians who have died in Gaza. That is sad. This is terrible. But if you look at the civilian to combatant ratio, it is less than any other war that we've ever seen. They're doing their best not to kill innocent people. And I agree. I wish I could snap my fingers and say, hey, no one innocent dies. And I wish that, you wish that, that'd be great. But I'm not going to do that and also say, and if that means that all Hamas gets to go free forever, so be it. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do that because it's sad when innocent people die, but bad guys are going to kill more innocent people. So it's not a trade-off I want to make, but it is one that is necessary to kill bad people sometimes. You're going to hurt innocent people. You look at World War II. Look at the amount of civilian death that happened in Europe when fighting the Nazis. Not from the Nazis, but from American forces trying to kill the Nazis. You're going to have civilian death. It's sad, and we don't want to see it. But Israel had a job to do. They've done most of the job. I wish they would go in and finish the job, but okay, whatever. Let's see if we can't get to a peace spot. Let's see if Israel can't rebuild and continue to make itself the strongest force in the Middle East. I hope that they do. We'll see. I don't, there's not much to say about it other than we'll see because we don't know who's going to react to what. But this is important. And you have to seriously consider the fact how ridiculous the system is. If Donald Trump can actually get these two countries, quote unquote countries, if they can get these two forces to stop fighting and make peace or make a ceasefire, it's a big deal, and he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize, just like he deserved it the first time when he normalized relations with Israel. He had two Arab countries normalize relations with Israel the first time in over 30 years, and making a huge progress towards peace in that region prior to Joe Biden getting into office. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that right now. We're going to move on because this is the topic. I know my intro might be a bit misleading about this, but this is the topic I really want to talk about. This topic two. Topic two, Jay Jones and the violent left. So your first question, I know what your first question is. If you're the kind of person who doesn't watch a lot of news and you're not plugged into politics 24/7, you're going to ask, number one question, who the hell is Jay Jones? And that's a great question. I didn't know the answer to this either. I can't know every single person in politics all over the country. You can't either. You can't be expected to. Jay Jones is apparently a pretty prominent Democrat in Virginia. He is running for attorney general in that state right now. This story is just absolutely bonkers. So it turns out, National Review broke this story, but 2 years ago, or I guess 3 years ago, I think it was 2022. It may have been 2023, but I believe it was 2022. 2022, Jay Jones sent some text messages to one of his colleagues in the House in Virginia. And he was talking about the current speaker at the time who was in the House. And he basically sent these text messages. They were having a conversation. He said some of the most outlandish stuff you can possibly imagine to this female colleague of his who I'm not 100% sure if it was confirmed that she was the one who leaked these, but I think it has to pretty obviously be her because there's screenshots of text messages sent from Jay Jones to this lady. And, oh, man, I really had her name right here, and I can't believe I forgot it off the top of my head. So I want to read these text messages because they are wild. So basically, or actually, here we go. Let me do this. I got to pull it up. We'll just show them here while we read. Won't that be nice? Here we go. Okay. So these are the screenshots of the text messages between Jay Jones and Coiner is their last name, Delegate Coiner. So Coiner, the lady, she says, they say nice things. They were referring, by the way, there was a funeral, I guess, for a prominent, I might have this backwards, but it was a prominent Democrat who died, and some Republicans showed up to the memorial and said some nice things. So they were having, that's what this conversation is about before we get into the text messages. Coiner says, they say nice things about everyone. LOL. This is Jay Jones, his response. If those guys die, referring to his Republican colleagues, if those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. She responds back, Jay Jones, as if you can think about that. Like, you say something inappropriate and they say you by your full name. You know, you say something and your mom goes, Tyler Chrestman. And you go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So she says, Jay Jones. The Jay Jones then responds, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. The lady says, Coiner says, Jay, please stop. And he says, okay. And then she says, it really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them. So, again, this is crazy. Listen, people say outlandish things, okay? They do. But you typically say that with friends, and you typically are joking in a way that you understand that your friends get this. This is obviously not this. She's really bothered by this whole thing, and he just finds it funny. This is a later conversation. She says, you weren't simply asking questions, and you know it. And then Jay Jones says, I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. She replies, you weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping, spelled it wrong, but hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Jay Jones. So let me read that one more time real quick. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. So this is the former speaker, the Virginia House Speaker, I want to say Todd Gilbert, and talking about his spouse, Jennifer Gilbert, and their children, saying Jay Jones said he would hope those children died. Jay Jones replies, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. The lady replies, this is another, again, later in the conversation, there isn't. I point blank asked you more than 3 times, and you dug in that you meant it. I'm honestly questioning a lot today. Jay Jones, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and they're breeding little fascists? Yes. Okay. Okay. So I read those. Hopefully they were clear while I was, if you weren't watching, if you're just listening. Obviously not a good person, right? Can we just agree on that? Not a good person, bad guy, Jay Jones. I think we can agree on this. He said he's not kidding. So when I was talking about this, people joke. You make inappropriate jokes with your friends. I like a lot of stand-up comedians who are very dark with their humor or make inappropriate jokes, and there's funny. It's funny. You can make fun of things. You can say terrible things. When you're joking, you kind of have to. You're joking. You say you're joking. You say you're kidding. You give him the LOL. You give him the ha-ha. You let him know. That's not what happened here. He's not kidding. Jay Jones is not kidding. He's saying something. He's trying to make it in a humorous way. But read those last couple text messages. He says, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. What is he referring to? He's referring to hurting somebody to move them on policy. That's what he's referring to. She said, hey, I asked you to stop. I said this makes me uncomfortable. And he says, yeah, but I've told you, you have to hurt people to move them on policy. They have to feel pain physically for you to move them on policy. It has to be personal. He's saying that. That's what he's saying in that text message. And what about the last one? She said, I told you to stop. It makes me uncomfortable. You're wishing their children die. And he says, do I think that Todd and Jennifer are breeding little fascists? Yes, I do. Okay. He's not kidding. He's not joking. When he says he wants people to die, when he says, I wish Gilbert would get shot twice in the head, he's not kidding about this. He wants to go to the funerals of his Republican colleagues and piss on their graves. And that guy thinks he should be Attorney General of Virginia. Here is the troubling part of this. First of all, we know he's not kidding. He could say whatever he wants. He's not kidding. The troubling part of this is the fact that he lost no endorsements in the first couple days of this scandal. Nobody's coming out here and said, I rescind my endorsement. I no longer endorse him in this race. No one said that. You know what we saw? We saw a bunch of people come out and say things like, political violence is bad, or violent rhetoric is wrong and we shouldn't do it. What are we talking about? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Jay Jones? Is that who we're talking about? Because maybe you should talk about Jay Jones. Maybe you should talk about the fact that you endorsed Jay Jones and you're going to rescind that invitation. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to rescind that endorsement. What you want to do is come in here and make mealy-mouth statements platitudes about how political violence is wrong. There is a permission structure on the left that says that this is okay. And that's why we see this political violence is, I can't say monopolized on the left, but it runs deeper on the left than it does on the right. And there have been people who have been disagreeing with me about this for the last couple weeks since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. But they're wrong. And I can explain to you how they're wrong so simply. Look at where the violence is occurring and ask yourself why it doesn't happen on both sides with the same intensity and ferocity. You can point to people on the left who've been hurt by people on the right. You're going to have the fringe on both sides. It exists. But where's the large-scale violence against liberal speakers on college campuses? How many liberals are afraid to go speak on a college campus? Are any of them? Can we find one person who was assaulted by a bunch of conservatives on a college campus? One person. Because I'll list you example after example after example of conservative speakers getting harassed, threatened, physically assaulted, having their gigs canceled because of security concerns. I can give you example after example. We don't have to just list big ones. We don't have to talk about Michael Knowles having a pipe bomb thrown at him. We don't have to talk about campuses descending into chaos when Ben Shapiro shows up, or Matt Walsh, or Jordan Peterson, or any of these people, just any of them. Charles Murray getting assaulted. You don't have to talk about this, but they exist. It obviously exists. Where is the alternative? Where is the liberal who has been assaulted by a bunch of red hat wearing MAGA guys who come out there like Jussie Smollett with the Subway sandwich and hit him over the head and say, "This is MAGA country," on Evergreen College? Oh, wait, that didn't happen. That never has happened. And it's not going to happen because conservatives don't do that. Okay, well, what about outside of college? What about some riots? Where are conservative riots? Oh, my God. Wait a minute. January 6th? Okay, dang, you got me there. This one thing that happened by a couple hundred people who went into the Capitol. Wow. Yeah, you're right. Conservatives and Democrats are the exact same. Remember when millions of people got in the streets? Remember when billions of dollars worth of property damage were done? Just less than 5 years ago. Remember that? Remember when Democrats burned down cities in America? Remember what happened in Wisconsin? Remember what happened here in St. Louis? I've said this multiple times. There used to be a 7-Eleven next to my house. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been a vacant lot for 5 years. You know why? Because the building burned to the ground one night when there was a bunch of fires lit. There were cars burned. There was a 7-Eleven burned down. Happened right outside the window. I was out there. There are pictures. Look back on my Instagram. Pictures of people walking around, flashing guns, fires in the street, a building burned to the ground. That's just in a block of me. This isn't anecdotal, though. I don't want you to think that, oh, I'm just concerned about this because it happened outside my window. This happened outside everyone's windows in every major city. And some were worse and some were better and some were okay and some weren't. But we had Democrats take over a city, part of the city in Seattle, in Portland, and turn them into annexed territories that the police weren't allowed to enter. Where's the Republican equivalent? Where are Republicans doing these things? Well, how about the assassinations, the political violence against high-level people in government? Hey, we had some people from Minnesota who were killed a couple weeks ago. Yeah, all right. Okay, this is bad. I don't see Republicans celebrating this. Again, this isn't the same. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I don't know these people in Minnesota. I don't know who they are. I don't have any idea who these people were. They weren't big political figures. Maybe locally people knew them. I don't know who they are. Charlie Kirk, major political figure. Donald Trump was not once but twice attempted to be assassinated. He got shot in the ear. And then somebody else showed up at a golf course trying to kill him. One of the Supreme Court justices, Brett Kavanaugh, somebody's in prison right now for trying to assassinate him. Where are the liberal justices? Where are their assassins? Where are these people committing violence against politicians on the right? Oh my gosh, Nancy Pelosi's husband got hit with a hammer by some crazy San Francisco drug addict. Yeah, I saw that video. Did you see that video? I saw that video. Did that guy look like, I don't know, a MAGA conservative to you? Did he look like a guy who had any coherent ideology whatsoever, he looked like a crazy San Francisco drug addict to me. I'm not saying he wasn't Republican. I don't really know. All I'm saying is that's not, no one on the right is giving that guy permission to go hit Nancy Pelosi's husband over the head with a hammer. No one on the right is doing that. People on the left are doing that every day. Every day that you're talking about the Conservative Party are a bunch of fascists. Every day the Conservative Party wants to take away your rights. They want to discriminate against black people. They hate the trans people, and they're committing violence with their words and their rhetoric, and they want to do every day. It's this from the left. Any major politician in the world, you can find them talking about their Republican colleagues, Donald Trump, conservatives in general, as existential threats that need to be eliminated. And you do not find this kind of rhetoric on the right. Not the same. And I know people will say, well, the right says mean things, and Donald Trump's mean, and this is true. But the permission structures for violence, the rhetoric is not the same. It might be mean. It might be nasty. Donald Trump says, you're a low IQ dog, and you go, oh, my God. But they say Donald Trump is Hitler. Like, do you understand? Do you see the difference? Do you understand why violence is so... Where is the right-wing Antifa? Oh, the Proud Boys. Why don't we talk about the Proud Boys? Where are they? Where are they? Let's look. Do you see the Proud Boys? I don't see them. Where do they exist? I know that I'm told that these guys they're fomenting insurrection and they're doing bad things. Who are they? Who supports them? What are we talking about? Antifa is in every city in the country. They're wearing masks and they're causing havoc. You could pull up video after video after video of assaults and vandalism and all sorts of nonsense from people who claim to be Antifa. By the way, Antifa, anti-fascists. You know, the word that you keep throwing around about every Republican who doesn't agree with you, that these fascists, those are the people who think that they're fighting them. So when every Republican's a fascist, the anti-fascist terrorists want to attack them. That's what they want to do. They're everywhere. Where are the Proud Boys? Where are they? Where are the videos? Where is the vandalism? Where are the things that they're doing that are so egregious that we need to talk about them? I can show you videos. I could show you people. I can show you specific arrests. All you got to do, go look at Andy No's X and just follow the arrests of all the people who have assaulted police officers at these protests and at these riots where they've assaulted police officers, they've committed vandalism, they're doing all these terrible things. Where is the right-wing equivalent? Where is the violence on the right? I don't see it. And it's not that I'm blind. I can see things, and if the right's committing violence, I condemn it. But I don't see it on this scale that we're talking about here. And I do not know how people can pretend at this point that the left isn't violent. The left is full of violence. The amount of people look at the shootings recently, these big mass shootings. You either have some crazed loner, or it's become now some trans terrorist, or a radical Muslim. Those are basically the three things. You got some crazy incel whose politics don't match up with anything, or you have some trans person who wants to go shoot up a church, or you have a radical Muslim who wants to commit jihad. And one of those things is political. One of those things is tied to the political. One of them isn't. The trans stuff, the trans shooters who leave these manifestos behind, that's like, I don't want, religion's poison, and the Republicans are bad, that's why I had to shoot up this school because I hate Republican Christian kids. That almost explicitly sounds like a Democrat platform at this point. Despise white people, despise Christians, and promote trans terrorists as being the morally just people in this world. It's crazy to me that we don't see this, or that many people don't see this and don't understand this. Because, like I said, I've seen violence. I know what violence looks like. Words aren't violence. Words aren't. But when you want to call everyone a fascist, what do we do with fascism? We destroy it. We root it out. Root and stem. And you you're giving people the idea that the half of the country are a bunch of jackbooted thugs who want to step on their throats, and you're making it seem like the noble moral option is to be a resistance fighter and go out there and punch a fascist. And it's wrong. It was wrong when it was about, when I said this 10 years ago about that whole let's punch a Nazi thing. I said, you can't just call everyone a Nazi so you can punch them. It's like, imagine if I carry around a gun, and every time I carry around a gun, I say, I'll use my gun in self-defense. And then everyone I meet, I throw a knife at them. And they catch the knife, and then I shoot him. And I go, wow, he had a knife. Well, you gave him the knife. What are you talking about? You gave him the knife, and then you shot him. Well, yeah, but he had a knife. That's what they're doing with their words. They say, some Republicans out there says, I disagree with X, Y, and Z. And then they go, you're a fascist. And then they're like, and then they pull their gun and they shoot him. And they go, oh, my God, that was close. That guy was a fascist. And it's like, you called him that. You're the one who's just pretending that he's a fascist. You're cosplaying as a revolutionary, and it's ridiculous. And I don't know. It drives me nuts, and I do not know. This swing, because what I'm worried about, by the way, with the left being this violent, is the swing, because there's always a swing. It always swings back. And what happens when the right gets violent? I said this about identity politics for years. If you want to have a coalition, or you want to say it's okay to be into black politics, it's okay to be in Hispanic politics, it's okay to be in Asian politics, and we're going to break people up into categories, and we're going to promote them based on their race or their gender, whatever the case may be. And you say, I don't like that. I don't like the idea of having black politics or Hispanic politics or Asian politics. I don't like that idea, because you're going to wind up with white politics. And and you're going to have asked for it yourself by saying everyone's allowed to be in a group and promote their group and want their group to do well, except white people. And the white people are going to say, well, what the heck? Like, why? What that? And then they're going to band together. And I said this about identity politics, and I say this about violence. If you want to use violence, you want to use this sort of rhetoric that demonizes your opponent and makes it so that violence is acceptable to do to them, what happens when the right gets as violent as the left? This is a big concern. First of all, I think the right's better at violence. I'm just going to be honest. I think the people who are on the right are going to be better at it. And we don't want that. I don't want people who are violent to commit violence on anyone. I think everyone should just be nice. But this is a giant problem, and it's one that needs to be addressed. And the left has to be careful. They're playing with a dangerous thing here, and I do not want to see it come back to get them. We all need to, this whole thing, we need to cool the temperature. I agree. We need to cool the temperature. It doesn't mean you can't be snippy or say mean things or that you can't debate forcefully and passionately. That's not what these things mean. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to joke. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to even say something, even name call. Like, I'm not going to say it's the best way to do this, but I'm not going to say you're not allowed to be upset. What I am saying is you cannot say that everyone who disagrees with you is morally reprehensible to the degree that if they die, that's okay. That's wrong. This is a wrong way to think about life. If, I don't know, pick one. Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris dies tomorrow, am I going to be happy? No, that'd be sad. It would be sad if she died. I despise Kamala Harris. I have nothing nice to say about her. I think she's a bad politician, an immoral person, and kind of a lunk intellectually. I don't have nice things to say about her. I think her policies are terrible. I think she ran a bad campaign, blah, 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 blah. I don't want her to die. I don't want her to die. I did not want her to be president. I think she would have been a terrible president, and I think it would have been bad for the country. Should someone have killed her to prevent that? No. But there are people who will sit there with a straight face and tell you that it would have been better if someone shot Donald Trump than for him to become president. They'll say the same thing about J.D. Vance. And I get it. It's not everyone on the Democratic Party. I get that. But it is enough people that it is troubling. It's like when we have that talk about radical Islam, and I try to explain to people that you're friends with some guy who's Muslim in the United States. Hey, congratulations. That's great. But when you actually look at data from around the world, the amount of people who describe themselves as Muslim, who have beliefs that you should find really troubling, is staggering. The amount of people who are in the categories of the way they think about homosexuality or apostasy or women's rights, whatever the case may be, it's staggering. And so you say, when you're talking about Islam as a whole, it's a large enough percentage that you have to be concerned. The same thing can be said on the left today. The amount of people who are okay winking and nodding at violence is a large enough percentage that it needs to be addressed. It's not everyone. It's probably not even the majority of people. But it's enough people that the left has to say to those people in their own party, you're not welcome here. No, you don't represent me. No, you can't. If Jay Jones gets votes in Virginia, it's a shame on every Democrat in that state and every Democrat in the country who has to own that. If people are voting for this guy, despite what he said, again, these aren't jokes. It's not an off-color joke. It's not like he made a joke. He doubled down and said, yeah, no, I really believe that. I think they're breeding little fascists. I think it's good, and people will change their minds once they hurt personally. That's what he's saying. If they vote for that, they vote for that. Just be prepared for the backlash. That's all I can say. And I don't want the backlash. I don't want there to be backlash, but there will be. That's just the way it goes. Anyway, I ranted on that for quite a while. Let's move on to topic 3. I am going to keep this brief, I promise. One battle after another. I'm going to do my little 1-minute review that is spoiler-free, but if you haven't seen this movie and you want to watch it, there are going to be spoilers in here. This little section right here, you can skip to the end of the episode. The only thing we're going to talk about the rest of the episode is this movie. So, where to start? Paul Thomas Anderson, the writer-director of this movie, is a fantastic filmmaker. Okay, I'll just say it. His politics are dumb, but he's a great filmmaker. He understands movies. He understands cinema, makes great movies. There Will Be Blood is a great movie with one of the best performances of any movie of all time. Daniel Day-Lewis in that movie is great. Boogie Nights is great. I didn't really care for Inherent Vice. What's the other one of his that I really, really like? Oh, Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love is awesome. Licorice Pizza is awesome. He makes great movies, this guy. Politics, not so much. The plot of this movie is, I'm just going to go through the plot and then I'm going to go through my thoughts. The plot of the movie basically is that Leonardo DiCaprio is part of this band of quote-unquote revolutionaries that are blowing up banks and political offices. And he basically has a daughter with one of the other revolutionaries. Then she ups and leaves. He goes into hiding. There's a character played. It's actually a little confusing at first. I thought he was in the army, but then he's with the police. So it was strange. But Sean Penn plays this character who's the big government tough guy who's coming to get him. And it without too many spoilers, it's a movie about that. Leonardo DiCaprio's in hiding. Sean Penn, some things go around, and he has to come and then try and find Leonardo DiCaprio and his daughter. So that's a bad way of describing the plot, but that's kind of what you're looking at. A radical leftist played by Leonardo DiCaprio is old and retired and still being hunted by Sean Penn, who basically went through and killed most of the members of his radical group. That's better, but it's still not great. People think this is a left-leaning film, and it's completely understandable because Leonardo DiCaprio obviously is a guy on the left. He plays someone who's on the radical left, and the book, I guess, that this is based on, it was based in the 60s, so the politics map on a little easier back in the 60s when the left was committing this type of political violence. But they're blowing things up, making changes, robbing banks, doing whatever, and they call themselves the French 75. They are obviously on the left. So since Leonardo DiCaprio is playing the character on the left, everyone thinks that the left is the hero. But here's the problem that I have with the movie and why I think a lot of people are misreading the politics of this film. And I don't think it was intentional by Paul Thomas Anderson to make the film this way, but I do think that this is what he wound up doing unintentionally. Because I know Paul Thomas Anderson is apparently a big communist. He's big leftist, and he wouldn't have done this on purpose. But when I read this, or when I watch this movie, I thought it was a little conservative. And I get, not really, but I'm going to tell you why I think that. People assume it's on the left because Leonardo DiCaprio's obviously the main character, and he's on the left, and he's kind of the hero, and you root for him. You root for this guy who's on the left, even though he's kind of an idiot in the movie. You're still rooting for him. Here's the problem I had with the movie and why I think it actually winds up being a conservative film. You had Leonardo DiCaprio, who is incompetent. He bumbling, makes him look like a fool. This is how they portray a lot of the people on the left. There's parts where he's trying to call up for a code word, and this guy's really woke. He's like, oh my God, right now you're committing violence against my personal space because they're getting in an argument on the phone, and he makes them seem ridiculous. They do that throughout the movie. They make these people on the left, they kind of poke fun at the people on the left, the gender confused and all these really woke, sensitive types. They poke fun at him. But he's still on the left, and he still is the hero, even though they make him seem kind of like an idiot. The reason why this is funny is because those people exist. The gender confused idiot people on the left, or the woke people who are like, oh my God, the violence, you're committing violence against my personal space and he's like, I'm on the phone. We're not even next to each other. And they go back and forth. So, they make these characters ridiculous. They make the left look ridiculous and silly and funny. Then they have the right-wing characters represented by Sean Penn and the big government who are coming to round up all the illegals and da-da-da. The problem for the movie is that these violent, moronic leftists that they portray that are real-life people, right? Like, these people exist. These are the Antifa people we're talking about today, right now. The right-wing equivalent doesn't exist. So they have to invent one. Sean Penn is a military guy, police guy. They're rounding up illegals to deport them. They use terms that I don't know. Maybe they heard somebody use these terms before, but every Mexican in the movie's a wet. They're like, oh, we got them wet and stinkies. We got to go round up. And it's like, okay, I mean, maybe Border Patrol said something like that. I don't know. Who knows? But the silly part is, so that it's not just that. It's not just that they're rounding up illegal immigrants to deport. It's that Sean Penn has to go have a secret meeting with this club called the Christmas Adventure Club. And it's a white supremacist, white nationalist Christian club that he's trying to join. It's a smoky cabal that really runs the country of these Christian, white nationalist nonsense people. Those people don't exist. They invent this villain. Right? The movie is trying to map onto the politics of today. We have the left. We have these moronic, woke, trans, Tifa terrorists on the left. They exist. Those are real people that they're making fun of. The people on the right, they have to invent. It's not just, oh, there's the military, they're rounding up illegal immigrants, that's bad. It's that then they have to go this step further to make it balanced, because these left-wing people are so bad in this movie that they're like, oh, we need a right-wing equivalent to make it so that these guys don't seem so bad. And then they just invent this white supremacist, I don't know, weird underground Christmas Adventure Club is what they call themselves, that really they secretly run the world. See, that's what we have right now. Right now we have all these revolutionaries on the left trying to fight for open borders, and on the right you have your secret white supremacist club that is just interested in white supremacy and promoting Christianity. And it's just like, who? You can't map on real politics because it would make the left seem terrible and crazy. And so you have to invent a character, which is why I think that this movie is actually inadvertently conservative. See, people are going to watch this. They're not going to get that. They're going to see it and they're going to think it's real. And that's the problem. That's the problem with this movie, is that they're going to watch it and think, oh my gosh, yeah, this is exactly right. The left is fighting for freedom and peace, and the right are a bunch of racists and bad people who sit in their smoke-filled rooms and they just use terms to describe Mexicans like wet and stinky. It's just like, those guys don't exist. Sean Penn's character doesn't make any sense in my mind. It's just, I go, what? Who is this guy? First of all, the Leonardo DiCaprio is actually really good in this movie. I think he's really funny, and he plays this kind of bumbling moron well. I am a big, big fan of Benicio del Toro and everything he's in. He's good. Sean Penn is strange in this movie. And he obviously is making some choices to be strange, but you're going, I understand Sean Penn's big lip. Big, 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 big lip. And I guess this is, in his mind, this is how conservative guys are. He's doing this Heath Ledger from Brokeback Mountain thing, where Heath Ledger said that the idea of being closeted was basically, you could see he wanted to just be tense all the time because he He wanted his character, this closeted gay guy, to just, you could just basically read the tension in his face. And Sean Penn's doing that in a weird way. He's doing this thing with his jaw. And the whole time he's going like this. And it's just like, and his name is Lockjaw. Stupid. And the main Leonardo DiCaprio's woman, her name is Perfidia, which basically means dishonest or liar, which is, the names are dumb. The names are dumb in this movie, and Lockjaw's a stupid name. But anyway, so the reason why it's bad is because people are going to watch this and think it's real, but anyone with any sense of reality is going to recognize this as just a weird, twisted fantasy that makes the left look ridiculous and nonsensical. The ending kind of, I think I've heard people say that the ending kind of promotes the idea that being a radical is good. Nobody grows, nobody learns, nobody gets to be better, which I think is silly. The ending, spoiler alert, is the daughter, Leonardo DiCaprio's daughter, is going to go out and be the next generation revolutionary, even though both her parents are losers and obviously didn't learn anything from looking around at her dad and mom being terrible people and say, I want to be better. This is basically like generational poverty of ideas, right? Like you look around at your parents who are poor and then you grew up poor and you're like, generational poverty is terrible. This is the generational poverty of ideas. It says that your parents, when they teach you wrong, you grow up with wrong ideas is really what it comes down to. But I didn't think it was as woke as people are saying it is. People are acting like this is the most woke movie of all time. I think it pokes plenty of fun at the left. And while it does there are no good conservative guys in this movie, period. There's not single person you would say is right of center who's a good guy. Not one. But, there's not really anyone on the left who's the good guy either. But I guess the closest you get to a good guy, quote unquote good guy, is Benicio del Toro. And his whole politics are kind of obscure because he's just a Hispanic guy who's trying to work as a smuggler. You could say, all right, bad. But, whatever. I don't know. He might be the closest you have to a moral character in the entire movie. I don't know. I liked it. I really thought it was good. Paul Thomas Anderson, he makes a hell of a movie. And so just from a filmmaking standpoint, it's a great movie and people should watch it. But the politics are weird. But I don't think they're as bad as people think. Anyway, I would be so curious to hear what people have to say about it. Because it's worth a watch. Trust me. It's going to win all the Oscars. I promise you. It's just going to win every one of them. So it's going to be around for a while. Go watch it. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you disagree with me. I'm sure you will, because I've looked online. Most people are disagreeing with me about this, how it could possibly be conservative. They're just saying it's woke, blah, blah, blah. But let me know. Let me know why I'm wrong in the comments. That always is fun. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I've been yapping at you plenty today. So we're going to leave it there for the week. As always, I'm Tyler Chrestman. I hope you guys have a tremendous 7 days, and I will catch you next Friday.